I can definitely tell that some young adults and young people, they struggle with eye contact. They struggle with, talking. They struggle with a conversation. They struggle with being themselves in person. And so I want to help them do that. I want to, and that doesn't mean we have to like flush our phones. It just means, okay, we know that doesn't always help, right? Like being our truest self isn't typically social media, right? So like, how do I be my truest self with the people around me that I love? How do I do conflict management? How do I handle drama? How do I handle not getting my way? How do I handle disappointment? Those are the real human things that I want them to have. And so that's why I'm so big on friendship and being with your people and finding your friends. And so I'm really pushing people towards that communication and that contact that is just irreplaceable. And not that, you might need to text someone to tell you where we're all meeting up. But then once you get there, like when I was in Australia, I went out to dinner with some young adults, and they had a rule where they would get together once a week. And when they got to dinner, they would all put their phones in the middle of the table face down. And the first person to grab their phone had to pay the bill. And I was like, brilliant. So I love little practicals like that of how can we kind of like hold ourselves accountable to being human. I mean, I think that's the greatest way to say it is, I've come to give you life and to give it to you to the fullest. And I think that a lot of us have not even scratched the surface of what fullest means. And that's the adventure of life we're talking about. And I don't want people to miss it. And so that's why I think, again, just trying to get their attention. Because once you get a taste of that life and to the fullest, everything else becomes a little counterfeit, a little not as savory, a little, I kind of feel like I'm wasting my time. Plastic, or just... This is a means to an end. Like, this is a means to an end. This is not the end. And just being able to kind of raise that flag and be like, I'm not a hater, but let's just kind of look at what we might be missing out on. That was something that I've been really praying through that, even in my own personal life. Saying yes also means saying no. And saying no also means saying yes to something else. And so, sometimes I think we just blindly go with it. It's like, oh, I got to get this done, or I got to do this, or I got to do this, or I got to do this. And it's hard to make those radical changes of I'm going to give this up for a little bit, or I'm not going to, be a slave to this or that. And the steps that it has to take to get there can be hard. So
yeah, it's interesting. Something that I've noticed in young people in particular is there's almost I don't want them to rebel in the sense of, something bad, but every teenage generation has something that they're rebelling against, right? Like, I grew up wearing the Jinkos and trying to, listen to the music my parents hated and all that kind of stuff. Like, that absolutely was part of, before that, where there was grunge and all that kind of stuff, right? And it seems to me like that spirit is kind of dissipated in this generation coming up. And to me, the new rebellion is to do exactly what you're talking about, of like, get embodied again. Like, rebel against the things that are trying to guinea pig you. And that should be the new rebellion of like, get your life together, because they're trying to take you towards this thing. And the man, which is technology or these huge corporations that want to addict us to these things, it's like, let's rebel against that. Like, that's the thing that we all need to kind of get up in arms about. And be grunge about again.
But no, I totally. You're speaking my language. What does rebel culture look like right now? It honestly, it looks like old-fashioned dating. That is literally. I have guys all the time come up and be like, "Will you give a talk on flirting? Like how to flirt again?" I'm like, "I'd love to. Let's do it." And I have. But again, it's like, what does that look like? It's kind of saying, I don't want to be controlled. And I think that once you kind of start feeling like, wait, what? And I think some of our young people and adults are starting to feel like, I've played this game for a while and I don't feel free. I don't feel empowered. I don't feel the things that I thought I was going to feel. I feel kind of trapped. I feel kind of isolated. I feel lonely. And I think we're starting to put words to some of those feelings, and I'm seeing that as well. And so, what's the rebel culture look like? Oh my gosh, it looks like virtue, and it looks like faith, and it looks like I'm not just going to use people for my own sake, and I'm not going to feed the machine, if you will. I think that's exactly what you're saying is spot on. I
tell this to young guys about porn is like, that industry is trying to control you. And so your rebellion is to say, you're not going to have my brain. Like, the dopamine that you're fixing me to is just not, I'm not going to let you have that. And so it puts or at least puts an entity in the way of like, go rebel against that. And I think that there's a natural desire in teenagers, especially in young college kids, to rebel against something. It's like, that's the thing. It's sin and death that we're rebelling against, right? But we have to give them practical understanding of like, yeah, the porn industry is trying to control you. So is the phone industry. So is, I mean, they go to actual, casinos to figure out how addictive the buttons can be and make them as addictive as possible. So like, let's figure out how to fight against that, not to fight against the technology itself because it's a good, but to fight against the ability to be controlled in that way.
Yeah, totally.
Even though that sounds conspiracy, but it's like, no, that's absolutely what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like that's not a conspiracy at all.
We're just kind of calling a spade. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that also, I mean, the what you're really pushing at is beautiful, and I think that they're young adults. It's high school, college, junior high, even. It's a time in your life where it's like my husband always says, it's this newfound confidence and this like hidden insecurity. You know what I mean? It's like, I got this life. Like I'm
also
fine.
Scared of that.
Yeah, well, but I mean, and I see that in young people. It's like, don't tell me what to do. Wait, I'm sorry, what am I supposed to do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I remember feeling that way too. And so I think that they're looking for people to trust. And so I think they're onto it that, oh, maybe I don't need to trust TikTok. And maybe I don't need to trust, Cosmopolitan. And maybe I don't need to trust the porn industry. Maybe not super trustworthy. You know what I mean? Like for what I want for my life. But then the problem is, I think the church and, Benedictine College, ministries, apostolates, I know Focus is doing great things, SPO. You see all these apostolates kind of coming together and saying, like, circle the wagons. Like, we got to circle the wagons. The church has to be a voice that's there and available for when they say, wait, what do you have to offer? Mm-hmm. So, like, I feel kind of taken and I feel duped and I've been used and I hurt and I'm angry and I'm frustrated. Like, do you have answers for me? Mm-hmm. And I think that has always been the church's role is the church has beautiful answers, but it's how do we give them to people in a way that they can understand it, in a way that they don't feel threatened, in a way that they don't need to feel like it's over their head. It's, you know what I mean? I think for a lot of young adults, sometimes it's like, well, I'm not gonna understand this anyway. And they just shut down, Like theology of the body, things like this. It's like, I don't really understand what you're talking about, or I don't want to believe what you're talking about, And so being able to articulate it in a way that they feel loved and they feel understood. And I'm not scared of their questions. You're not scared of their questions. I think that's probably one of my favorite things about ministry and even college students and young adults is they have great questions. They make me pray harder. They make me seek. They make me go find the sources. And that's the beauty of my faith and my conviction is that I know I can find the answers. Yeah. And so it's like being able to, I have been fed so much in my life by just walking this path with friends and relatives and just doing ministry and also just knowing so many college students. I mean, we live across the street and just being able to open our home and be able to hear people and hear their stories. And I mean, sin is never unique, but our times are. And so just being able to really approach this with honestly our minds, our hearts, our creativity. I think social media can be one of the greatest weapons against the evil one if we can figure out how to yield it. Mm-hmm. And I'm pumped. I think it's great. I just think we have to, again, that's why I love what we're doing. I love what you're doing. I love the idea of transforming the culture. I mean, what else should we be doing with our time than bringing people to the Lord and helping them through their woundedness? And I love, the Lord just knows, he knows what he's doing. And so to lean into that and keep it simple, stupid. I mean, it really is. I think that's how we approach it, because sometimes I think a lot of young adults and adults are just looking for anybody that can help them walk this life. I've seen that more than ever. It's people looking around going, there has to be more, right? Like, yeah, there's more. Come hang out, eat cookie dough, drink wine with Sarah. Depending on your age, we'll drink a glass of wine or eat cookie dough, depending on how old you are, right? So, but yeah, I think that we're onto something.